What an odd and strange week this is. We call it Holy Week. And no matter how many times we observe it, participate in it, it's still a strange week because it tells us the truth. And maybe these are the most honest services we'll ever have together because they talk about very honest things: betrayal, darkness, a last word, a final supper until the world begins to unravel. He is leading us to the cross, but he's leading us beyond that. And I hope and pray tonight we just take our time. Whatever distractions are out there, put them out there so that you can be fully immersed to hear the story as if you were there at the table, as if you were there when Jesus kneels and washes our feet, when he offers us a cup and bread. Not only that you may be in it, that you may hear it, and you may live fully into it as well. May we pray. God, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. So you and I both know we live in a selfie generation, which means it's all about me. Let's post everything about me. Let everybody know every single thing I'm doing, hoping I can either get a lot of clicks or I'll go viral. I saw something that made me laugh the other day. That's just the generation. That's the whole world we're living in at this point. But I saw something that said, how to go viral on TikTok. Here it is. Participate in trends. Use hashtags wisely. Create engaging and share-worthy content. Start with a hook and keep it short. Engage with your audience. Become good at editing. Collaborate with other creators or brands. Post consistently, meaning every chance you get, whatever the occasion may be. Put your face out there. Put your life out there. Make everything public. Put it on social media. Contrast that with a story I heard this week. His name is Andy Lewis. He's a colleague. He's a United Methodist minister out of Dallas. And he told me something that reminded me of what I knew about, but I had not heard this particular story. A couple of years ago in Jacksboro, Texas, just down the road, had an incredible tornado that blew through town, killed a number of people, destroyed numerous homes, just devastated the entire community. In the aftermath, so many people came to show up to help rebuild the city. There was UMCOR, or United Methodist Committee on Relief. There were the Baptists, Lutherans. Everybody came, even Mennonites and even Amish work teams descended upon Jacksboro to help rebuild that community. And after a number of months, they had this great big celebration where they were going to present the keys to the people who had new homes to dwell in. Their homes were completely destroyed by the tornado. And there were a lot of fanfare, a lot of pictures being taken, a lot of press. People came from miles around. It's a huge story, great celebration, except the Amish didn't participate. They were there. But they have a rule. It's not about them. No pictures of them unless their back is turned. There was nobody that was going to identify any individual of the Amish community. They were never to grant interviews. They didn't seek nor desire nor even want any publicity or any public thanks or gratitude. They had this incredible selfishness that just decides that understanding that they're not selfish, it's selfless. The idea that they're going to be humble, that it's not about them. They put the needs of others over and above what their own needs might be. In this passage, Jesus gets down on his knees and he becomes the most humble servant. Whatever you think about Jesus, this is the image. Because it takes precedence, meaning this is the last moment. So if you were to have just a final moment with the people that you love, what would you say to them? What would you do for them? What would you want them to understand? And part of what he does is to send a message, to get down on his knees with a towel and basin and wash their feet. And it takes place because Jesus knows there's not much time left. It's only going to be a number of hours before they're going to descend into the darkness. And it all begins to fall apart. It all begins to unravel. And Jesus knows this. And so it takes on this heightened sense of importance that every word means something. Every act symbolizes something that he wants them to retain, that he wants them to know long after he is gone. So he gets right to the point. He doesn't tell parables. He doesn't talk about doctrine. He doesn't really give them a map about here's what you're going to do after I'm gone. Here's how you're going to keep the movement going. Here's going to be the person that's going to do this or that. He doesn't do any of that. What he does is a couple of things. One, to break bread, bless it, give it to them. bless a cup and share it, but also to tell them that he loves them. And he gives them not a parable, not doctrine. He gives them one simple statement. It's mandates, where we get Maundy, Thursday, Latin for mandate. It's not a suggestion. This is what I ask you, call you, command you to do. And it's to love one another. And then he follows it by saying, by this everyone will know. You couple those two things together, love one another. It sounds on the surface something that we all are capable of doing, and we do often. But if you look over the history of our planet, and us in particular, how many times have we botched this? He tells us to love one another. How difficult is it for us to do just that? And even those who call ourselves Christians, how much we struggle with the idea of what it means to love one another. And even though we try as hard, and even we fail short or fall short of it, it's the hardest thing we'll ever do. And then he couples this, by this everyone will know who you are and who you follow. And then you begin to feel this responsibility. So you're telling us to love one another, and by doing so, everybody else is going to know. Because when we don't love and we say that's what we do, then it just creates this chasm. It feels to people who are on the outside like it's all just a sham that doesn't really mean anything. Or it's like Paul would say, this clanging cymbal or a noisy gong. You're just talking. You say all the right words, but there's no evidence you're doing anything. You talk about how much you love each other. Take a good look at your life and how that actually translates anything. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. You pay attention to what he doesn't say. He doesn't say, believe the right things, go to exactly the right church, and read exactly this particular interpretation. No, what he says is love one another, which means that's going to be the litmus test for him and for everything. That whatever you're going to be judged on is primarily on how willing you are to love other people. Love one another. By this, everyone will know. Everyone will know that we bear Christian witness. That's the way in which we're going to introduce Jesus to other people, is how much we love each other and how much we love others. But then there's this saving grace that somehow he adds on this one last thing that I think actually helps us, because it's impossible. Love one another. And by the way, they're going to be watching you. And if you don't love each other, then people are going to call into question how genuine and authentic you are. And then he tacks on this third one that actually saves us. Love one another. By this, everyone will know, as I have loved you. Which means he doesn't lead us or leave us alone. Doesn't leave us bereft. What he says, this is a template. Love like I love. Hurt like I hurt. Heal like I heal, offer grace like I do. Do the things that I have done. Watch me. You have been with me. You know what I have done for you and for everybody else. Do that. That's how you love one another. Because on your own and by yourself, it's almost impossible. But if you've watched me, you've been with me long enough, you know you can do exactly what I ask you to do. Which means feed the hungry, welcome the child, release the captive, forgive the sinner, comfort the oppressed, wash each other's feet, hold each other accountable, tell each other the truth, guide each other home. This is the last night, and they're all together. He's saying goodbye to them. In John's gospel, it's the better part of 3 and 4 chapters for Jesus carefully trying to say goodbye, because he's preparing them for when he is no longer with them physically. And he gathers around people. And there's a betrayer. There's also people who will abandon him, deny him, walk away from him. 2 brothers who keep arguing about who the greatest is in the kingdom. And for all this group that doesn't really measure up in terms of what you would expect to be the people who are going to usher into the kingdom, that's the one he chose, which means he chose us as well. He doesn't just tell them what he wants. He actually shows them. He gets down on his knees and he washes their feet. And I don't know about you, but my experience is people who are givers are not real good receivers. I don't know why that's true. It just is. We're more comfortable giving than we are receiving. And in a moment, we're going to invite you to come forward, and some of you, if you wish, will sit in a chair and have Carly or myself wash your feet. And it's just uncomfortable. We'd rather do the foot washing than have someone wash our feet. Now you understand, in part, what's happening in this room. He's saying goodbye, and they don't really understand this is the last time they're going to be together. And before he leaves, he wants them to know something, which means he wants us to know something. And if you don't think your last words to the people you love matter, think again. If you had that opportunity, what would you say to the person you love? What would you want them to know? You wouldn't waste any time. You wouldn't waste any words. You would literally give them everything you could in that moment, as best you could, that they could carry with them for the rest of their lives. I heard this great story the other day about a little boy named Will Checketts. He was 7 years old. He's playing with his brother, and they're wrestling with each other, and he falls and he hits his head. And they think it's just a bump because there's sort of a bump on his head, but then he's not acting right. They know maybe something's wrong. They take him to the ER. Take him to the ER. The doctors quickly usher him in, and they begin to determine it's more serious than what they first thought. There's a skull fracture and there's a brain bleed. And they began to talk, and everything is moving quickly and fast. He's 7 years old. He doesn't really understand what's going on. And they also say, oh, by the way, we're going to have to shave your head before you go into surgery. He's a 7-year-old kid, and he's scared. And all this is happening, and all the adults are rushing around the room, and he's looking around. And as the time passes, he looks up, and in walks his father before they wheel him into surgery. His father shaved his head. He's looking at his father, who has shaved his head, to say, I'm with you. I love you. And I'm not going anywhere. And I'm going to be here when they bring you out. In a world where words are cheap, we throw about them everywhere we can. We manufacture them. They don't seem to much mean anything. And we use words just indiscriminately to build up and tear down and fill the silence. And we are really good at just filling up a whole lot of emptiness with words. And there are a lot of people who will say the right things, they'll make promises and tell you what you want to hear, but at some point in our life, you and I have hit this point. Don't just tell me you love me. Show me you love me. And Jesus got down on his knees, and he washed the feet of his own disciples.